lovely introduction. So I was looking around, I was like, who's the host of this podcast? She sounds lovely. DeMoya, I'm so excited to talk to you tonight. And first, before we start, I want everybody to take a look at your program. There is a QR code there. Keep that handy. We will revisit that towards the end of it. Just want some quick feedback towards the end of our conversation. DeMoya, first and foremost, like I said, so excited to talk to you tonight. We had a pre-conversation earlier. Like, I have a bajillion questions for you. And I'm so excited to introduce you to our audience tonight. But first and foremost, tell us more about how you got your start in the arts.
Okay, well, I began dancing at a very young age. I think I mentioned to you in a conversation that I have an aunt who is very much into the arts, whether it be fashion design, dance, being a choreographer, being a performer. And at the age of 3, I was placed on stage with other young ladies that were much older than me, and my job was to follow them. If they tipped their hat, I tipped my hat. And so from there, that seed was planted, and it was something that just kept growing, and it was being nurtured by my family. And I went on to, train in tap, jazz, ballet, musical theater, everything. And then I decided I want to major in dance. It was my senior year. My mom was like, what? I'm like, okay, well, you need to go back to ballet. Drill team can wait, go back to ballet. Anyway, long story short, majored in dance at Florida State University. And right after graduating, I began to audition, and I was gainfully employed. Decided I'm going to go on a cruise ship and live on a cruise ship for a year, and then I went back for like 3 more months after that, and so that was very interesting. But being a performer, training for my entire life, going on to being a professional dancer, and then discovering new pathways in which I could take all of the things that I love and build a career out of that. So that's been my pathway, my trajectory into the arts. And now I'm the director of community engagement at the Washington Ballet. And I've hung up my ladukas, as we say. No longer wearing my dance shoes, but I'm happy that the transition for me happened organically. And I've been able to remain in the arts.
I love it. Well, I want to rewind a bit because you spoke about seeds being planted. It sounds like it was in fertile soil. So let's talk about the seeds, because we talk about being on stage at 3 years old, but it sounds like you had experience in the arts in the home, in your family, even before 3 years old. So what's your first memory of the performing arts?
Yes. First memory of the performing arts was going to see Alvin Ailey, and I believe I was 5. It's a vague, very foggy memory, but I remember being in Daytona Beach, Florida, where I'm from, Peabody Auditorium, and having on my dress, and with my mother, and feeling very special. And I remember there being ladies dancing, brown skin, African American women dancing in these yellow dresses with these chairs and these fans. Well, as I grew older, now I know, of course, and knew a couple of years after that, that was Revelations. And that was, that's my most vivid memory of the arts at a young age. That stuck with me. And I'm not even sure my mom knows that. So, yes, and I think that was another moment where, that seed was being watered, right? And yeah, it just kept growing from there. It was something that I could never get away from. So as a child, I had those encyclopedias, which probably a lot of us have had, the children's encyclopedias. Well, if you saw my encyclopedias, the only one that was worn was arts and entertainment, earmarks. And so I'm like, wasn't it obvious? Like it was obvious. And then I have, in one of my scrapbooks that my mother has, there's an essay that I wrote probably in 1st grade. And it was, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it says, I want to be a star. And she still has it.
I can say confidently, you did that.
Thank you.
In our conversation, I think two things stood out to me, and that's exposure, which
Yes.
is the seed being planted, fertilized, and water, and also representation that you mentioned, seeing the Alvin Ailey performance.
Yes.
When I talk about exposure, what comes to mind? Outside of Alvin Ailey, being on stage, how important is it for young people at the Sitar Center, young people in the audience, to have that exposure and ignite a passion?
Absolutely. Extremely important. Representation matters, and it is important for each and every performer, regardless of the genre of dance, regardless of the art form, to understand that representation matters and that it is important for children of all racial backgrounds to see themselves. Because sometimes that goal may not necessarily feel as though it is something that is attainable. And you know, just seeing someone on stage that looks like you, maybe in an area where previously you didn't know that it was something that you could do. You didn't know that it was something that you could pursue, and that there are means to getting you there, such as the Sitar Center and the Washington Ballet, and we have a very robust scholarship program. And so I think having young, blossoming artists see themselves in the performance on stage is extremely important, because it allows them to dream, and it allows them to say, hey, one day that could be me. It's just, and I have, you know, I was well into my performance career, but I had a young lady, she was a little girl. I was at a PR event, and she came up to me, and I was dressed in my Radio City, you know, my Rockette garments, and feeling beautiful. And she goes, and it was a young Black girl. She goes, I didn't know dancers, ballerinas could be Black. And that touched me in a very shocking way. But it let me know representation matters at that moment. And also, how can I contribute? What can I do? What is my part in this big world that we live in? And how can I move on from that encounter and enlighten and expose other young boys and girls to dance as an art form or other, you know, art forms.
Absolutely.
It's very important.
It sounds like it was a pivotal moment for you.
It was a pivotal moment for me, and I continue as the director of community engagement for the Washington Ballet. I continue to see those moments, those sparks, those light bulbs that a child gets when they're in the audience, especially with our student matinee. There's one little girl. The Q&A was over for the student matinee. The kids are getting ready to get on their buses and everything. And she comes up, she's like, can I ask a question? And I said, yes, you can ask me a question. I was leaning over the stage. And she goes, can I dance? Can I be a ballerina? I said, you sure can. And she goes, okay. And she skipped out. Literally, she skipped up the aisle out of the theater to catch up with her teacher and her class. But it was that moment. That's just one of many. When students see themselves or they feel like, oh, this is something that I can do. And it's that moment when things click for them.
It ignites.
It ignites. It's like, there it is.
I love it. So it sounds like you've been an inspiration to countless. You probably can't even count how many people. Besides some people telling you, there's some people who you've inspired and you have no idea. But I want to talk about, let's marinate on that. You can inspire so many people, you don't even know who you inspired just by living your life and living your passion.
Wow.
And I have to thank you for that.
Thank you.
I also, I want to also talk about how the circle of life it inspires, and you've inspired your own children to be in the arts.
Yes.
And how does that feel that you see your kids have an innate desire to be in the arts? Just seeing you and seeing what you do every day.
Yes, my son is very much into the arts. He's a musician. He's not a dancer. He will dance with mommy, but he
privately, I'm sure.
Privately, yes. But it's something that once I notice, the interest was there, and I come from a family of musicians. My dad's a musician. My dad was a drummer and performed. He was gigging well into his late 70s as a drummer. And so once I saw that the interest was there from my son, I was like, okay. And then my husband and I, we heard him sing. And, we're not paying attention, but we heard the child sing. And it's like, what was that? Well, okay, the child can carry a tune. And then he wanted to start playing the piano. And then it's just like, okay, there's the interest. What do I need to do? So I'm feeding it, I'm nurturing it. I'm like, what instrument do you want to play next? Now it's the cello, but we're still going to stick with the piano because the rule is you learn the piano and then you can play anything else you want. And so it's very important to me to foster that, nurture that, that interest, and to put him in spaces where he can not only see other musicians that look like him, but put him in spaces where he is being exposed to various art forms. So dance inspires musicians. Musicians, through the instruments they're playing, inspire the dance that comes out of our bodies. Also with visual arts. I can look at a painting in an art gallery and I can go away and I can choreograph movement, whether it be a short motif or a full-on piece. But there's inspiration everywhere. And I strongly believe that one art form feeds another. And so regardless of whether you are a musician, you are a visual artist, you are a dancer, you are an actor, they all feed off of each other in some way and can be inspiring in a lot of ways. And so I like to expose my son to various art forms. We're going to go to the art gallery. We're going to watch a dance performance, and we're going to watch Dancing with the Stars, and that's what's on, and then I'm teaching him. And I'm teaching him, do you hear that music? Do you hear, it might be a Spanish influenced musical piece, but that tells me how to move my body. Everything. Listen to, and we're driving in the car, and I'm like, what instrument is that? Is that a saxophone? Is that a flute? And then I'm thinking, he's paying attention. I'll start to move my shoulders, and I'll look back there, and he's doing his shoulders too. And
there's a mommy in dancing.
There it is. So, but I just say all of that to say it's so important to expose young artists and aspiring artists to the various art forms. And you just never know. He's a musician today. He might be an actor tomorrow, might be a singer later, and a dancer. Who knows?
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing is exposure, but also making it diverse.
Yes.
Diverse exposure
Yes.
through all the different mediums of art.
Absolutely.
So important. And one thing I'm also interested in is your eye for the arts and the eye that you developed through years in the industry. What is it factor for you when someone comes to you and says, I can dance, but there's sometimes, I always say there's nature versus nurture. And also as a parent, you have an eye.
Yes.
So you have an eye for your son. But how do you look at somebody like, they've got it?
It's very interesting. It doesn't take very long to recognize the it factor. For me, it's when a young dancer, not only are they doing steps, like I can give anyone steps. I can, tell you to do kickball change and stretch your arm out.
I got a mean part of Ray.
I got a mean part. See that?
But I don't have the it factor, but you can teach that.
You've got the it factor in multiple ways.
Not dancing, but I'm sorry.
But yes, but just watching a dancer, when dancers dance from a place within, and it may sound cliche, but I tell you, there's a difference between extending your arm and extending your arm.
Oh, I felt that.
Do you know what I mean? And it's when you dance from a place that's deep within, that I call it the ooze.
Yes.
Because I will tell young dancers when I'm working with them, I don't want you to just do steps. I actually want to see that movement pull from your inner being. And when you are internalizing that movement and you're internalizing that music and just being present in the space and honoring the fact that you are gracing the stage with your presence to please others and to inspire others, it makes you dance from a different place. And so I can tell very quickly if a young dancer has it. It's not only how they receive the information and they're able to put it on its feet and make the transitions and the corrections right in the moment. Don't just be a technician, but be a performer of that technique. And it's something very special. It's like a light, and it's a natural high that you get when you're on stage. And I want to see that. I want to feel that. I want to feel the movement from me standing up here as your teacher or your choreographer to you down, you know.
And I love hearing you talk about it because I can feel that ooze from you. And we've talked about how you enjoy being on stage and that passion being on stage. But we're talking also about different career paths.
Yes.
It's not always on stage, but what would you advise young people who are looking to work in the arts and may be interested in different paths that might not be right here on stage under the spotlight?
I strongly recommend that young artists just think about all of the things that you love to do, and also acknowledge the fact that one day the curtain will go down on that performance career. Our limbs are not going to hold us forever. And so acknowledging the fact that there is life after the stage. And what does that look like for me? And how do I take all of the things that I love and infuse them into a career? And for me, I didn't know arts management exists. I don't know if it's because it didn't exist at my university at the time. It is now, or if it's just because I didn't know to go looking for it. And it was not something that was talked about. I was a dance major. I danced every day, all day. I was in, a bunhead and in rehearsals after that. And so you had no time to think about anything else. But acknowledging the fact that there is life after the stage will push performers to start looking at what is next for me. Going into arts management, whether it be, if you are a person that is good with, meeting people and fundraising, you want to go into development. If you are a person who loves creating social content and you love creating various marketing publications and things like that, maybe you want to go into marketing. And we can't forget the, very, very important people, the production side of things. They are the people that make the magic happen.
It's a thankless job sometimes too. People don't think how did the lights
exactly
hit exactly right?
How does the snow fall in the snow scene on the stage?
You just think you're in a magical place, and it just
exactly. And you don't know that there are people up there pulling those pulleys, and those things are going up in the ceiling of the theater. And so there are various roles in arts management, and also being an artistic director, being an executive director. And so I encourage young artists to think about life after the stage. For me, it came in a very organic way. I was actually in the process of going through union negotiations with a job that I had, and not myself, but a group of us. And I was just like, protecting the artist is really important.
Absolutely.
Protecting the artist is really important. How do you give artists a voice? That advocacy. That's where the advocacy comes in. Very important for those of us that want to go into arts advocacy. And so it was at that moment where I was just kind of like, maybe arts management is my thing. Maybe company management is my thing. And my company manager at the time was like, are you sure you want to go into company management? And I was like, yes, why not? And he was just like, okay, be careful what you ask for, kind of thing. But still, it was at that moment that I was just like, what can I do to make sure that if I'm ever put in a position to give artists a voice, I can be a sound voice for them. I can be a person that they come to talk to in, when they're struggling with something or facing a challenging decision. And then also having encounters like I spoke about with the young lady, the little girl, who said that she didn't know ballerinas could be Black. It's taking that love, my love, of wanting to be a voice and a supporter for young artists, B, me wanting to make sure that I'm putting myself in a place where I can inspire young kids and create a pathway for them, and my love of community, my love of serving others. And how do I put all of that together? Well, that's where landed me in community engagement for the Washington Ballet. So it did not happen overnight. It was not something that I knew straight out the gate. It was just something that happened organically for me. But that's not to say that that has to be everyone's path. You can be really intentional about what does your career transition look like once the curtain goes down on the stage.
And with that being said, in TV, we have a term, being a Swiss Army knife, being able to do things in front of the camera, behind the camera, write, edit, shoot. Could you see that being a term also in your field, where would you tell a young dancer, be able to do all these different things to diversify your opportunities in your career? Is that something you would advise a younger DeMoya?
Absolutely, absolutely. And because I always say with dancers, you can't just do ballet. You can't just do, you've got, now you want to be able to do ballet, you want to be able to do contemporary, whether it be modern. You never know which choreographers are going to come across your path, and also what other opportunities. So go and take the voice lesson. Step out of your comfort zone. For me, step out of your comfort zone and take that voice lesson. And that's where it opens up a whole nother world. Now you're into musical theater. Take the acting class. Expose yourself to the various art forms that will help you, find your way and find your path.
So important. And tell us about how you found joy on and off the stage, and how you're able to give more joy to people off the stage now.
Yes. Well, I've spoken about my joy on stage was just knowing that somewhere in the audience, I'm pulling on someone's heartstrings, I'm making an impact on someone's life, and touching them in some type of way. And I, in my role now, I'm able, not able, it's an honor. I have been afforded the opportunity to reach so many young boys and girls, and to say, hey, look at this art form. This is classical ballet. Maybe you've never seen classical ballet. Maybe you've never thought it was for you. But I'm here to tell you that this is for you. And it can be something that you pursue on a professional level. And so my work at the Washington Ballet as the director of community engagement continues to put me in spaces where I'm able to create pathways. I am able to help young boys and girls see themselves through the art that is being presented on stage, and just able to inspire. And I don't take it for granted. I don't take it lightly. And I want everyone in the DMV to think that they can be a ballerina, and just be a dancer. I don't want it to focus on it just being a ballerina so much, but just being a dancer and using dance as a healing tool, as a way of expressing yourself, communicating with others, and decompressing. Like, we're in a climate now, our current climate is very stressful, and we are always go, 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 go. And I think that our young children around us see that, and they pick up on that. And so when we're stressed, they might end up being stressed, right? And so teaching them in class, a creative movement class, how are you feeling today? If everyone's having a wonky day, okay, well, write down on a piece of paper how you're feeling today. And we're gonna talk about how we put that in movement. How do we dance that out? I'm gonna put on some music, and you're just gonna move. If you just wanna sit there and kick your foot, whatever it is, that's movement.
Can I come to this class?
Yes.
Sounds like a good therapy class.
It is. Dance is therapy. Art is therapy. Not just dance. Art is therapy. And I think I need to take my own advice and get a little therapeutic
Can we
treatment.
kick our feet? We just kick our feet here and get some therapy. Yeah, thank you. Yes. I feel better already. Well, I love how you talk about art as a tool and a ministry and something to heal people. I love that because I think it's been an escape for so many people, but it's a passion and it's the ooze that you talk about. And it's inspirational, and you never know who you're ministering to when you're doing your art and on stage or off stage.
Right.
So I think it's just beautiful and poetic the way you so eloquently put it. One of my last questions, we've talked about to sum up everything up. We've talked about education, we talked about exposure and representation. Right now, more than ever, we see in recent headlines, of course, where people maybe don't value diversity in different facets of life. Not to get political, but how important do you think it is you talk about making pathways for young people.
Yes.
Why is it important to make sure those pathways are available? You talked about a scholarship with Washington Ballet. Why is that so important? And what can the average person do to help make sure the pathways are still open in any career field for everyone, and there's equality for people to go the heights that they would like to go to within the arts, within Washington Ballet, within the performing arts?
Yes. Diversity is very important. On stage, off stage, behind the scenes, diversity is important. And I think that we have to be conscientious of the fact that we are not just catering to one particular audience. We are catering to everyone. You know, art is for everyone. Art does not discriminate, and it does not just choose this person over here and not that person over there. And regardless of any of your demographic backgrounds, you can be an artist. If that is what your heart desires and that is the path that your heart is pulling you in, you can achieve it. And I think that it's so important for us to let, you know, white, black, brown, Asian, whatever, young people know that dance, ballet, you know, music, visual arts, anything, not only is it being used as something that they may come to after school at Sitar for enrichment, but it's actually a career. You actually can create a career path for yourself doing something that you love. And so it is our job as artists to go out and expose and to inspire and nurture and let these young people know this is for you. This is not just for a secluded set of kids. It's for everyone. And it's so important for the advocates of the arts, patrons of the arts, to find your local dance school. You know, if you're in the DMV, of course you can always come to the Washington Ballet. There are various ways of being a part of the magic that is happening. Whether you want to become a donor at Sitar, donor at the Washington Ballet, or any other arts organization. Whether you are, you know, we have some people that may tune into this that live on the other side of the country. Find your local arts organizations that are making an impact in the community, that their mission is to reach out into the community and to reach out to young artists and to inspire them. Find those organizations and invest your time, your financial contributions to those arts organizations, because it's so important to keep it going. Everything has a price tag, right? And those little girls that grow up and they want to dance and they want to continue to dance, young girls and boys, those ballet shoes cost. Those point shoes cost. Those tights are. Don't even talk about the tights. Everything, you know. And so it's just really important for those that feel as though, you know, they're not dancers or they're not artists, but I call them arts enthusiasts. It's okay to be an arts enthusiast. We need you. The arts needs you. We need you to, patronize the arts and to keep it going, because I hate to say it, but the arts is always the first thing to go. Whenever there are, deductions being done here or there, whether it be government or whatever, the arts seems like it's always the sector that gets cut in half. But yet, think about it. If the arts didn't exist, you wouldn't have a movie theater to go to. You couldn't go to the Kennedy Center, the Washington Mountain. You couldn't go to a performance and see the dancers on stage. You couldn't go to one of the Smithsonian museums and see the art on the walls. You wouldn't even have a picture book, right? So those are artists. Those photographers. Those are artists. That's visual art. And so it's all around us, and it saddens me deeply to know that the arts is always the first thing that is, they don't need this,
right?
Right. And we need it to keep it going.
Well, we need you, and I thank you for everything you're doing for the arts world, and I can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. I know everybody has questions, so I would like to talk to you for 2 more hours, but I think people need to go home. So I want to open up to the audience. If anybody has any questions for DeMoya, please let us know. We have a microphone that is going around. We have one question right here.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Moya, what is it about classical ballet that you really like so much? What drives your enjoyment of classical?
Okay.
Asking about what drives your enjoyment for classical ballet.
Classical ballet.
Yes. I will admit, ballet was something that I started out doing, and then I was like, I want to move a little bit more, a little bit faster, and then I went on to tap and jazz, and then I went right back to ballet. What drives my love for classical ballet? It's just beautiful. It's very, it can be soothing, but then you could also have a choreographer that comes and turns that on its hat. And it's just like something that is a little more contemporary, a little more edgy. And so I think that my love for classical ballet just stems from my love for dance in general. The first ballet that I saw was Creole Giselle, performed by Dance Theater of Harlem. That was the first one my mother exposed me to, and it was on a VHS. And I still have it. And so I just think that classical ballet, it just has, it's something, it's very intricate. And if you pay attention to what they're doing on stage and not just get lost in the sceneries and the backdrops and that they're moving in and out and formations are changing, but look at the intricacies of what they're doing. It's very difficult. It's very challenging. And they, I give them the utmost respect, because not only have I been there and experienced it, but if you're just a spectator watching and you think it's very easy to stand on that wooden box and to do those, pirouettes and that very fast petit allegro, very challenging. And for the men, we can't leave them out. How their bodies are so lean and elongated and beautiful, but they are so strong. They are extremely strong to be able to lift the young ladies up above their heads countless times a week, over and over again. It just requires a strength physically, but also an inner strength that I believe classical ballet dancers have to have, any type of dancer has to have. So I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you. This is so inspiring.
Thank you.
I have 2 questions. The first one is the Washington Ballet give only ballet classes, or do they give like other genres of dance? And then my second question is, was there any part in your career where you thought, okay, I don't want to do dance anymore, this is it, I'm doing something completely different? And did you veer off to something else, and how did you come back? And
Yes.
Those are my 2 questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Did you ever have a moment where you wanted to pivot
I did.
in a different way off stage?
I did. And my mom was like, You're like, yeah, okay. It was like a joke to her. And it actually happened in college. And I think I hit a wall. And I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired of being at the ballet bar at 9:30 a.m. And I hit a wall, but I have never hit a wall and decided this is not for me. And I think that's a blessing, actually. I consider myself lucky that has never happened to me. I never pivoted away from dance completely. Maybe in my mind. But I thought in high school, I was like, oh, I'm going to be a journalism major. I'm going to, and then I was like, wait a minute, I want to dance. And that's when my mom was like, what? And then in college, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I got the laugh, and it's like, okay, go to class.
That's a good mom.
That's a good mom. And I think the approach that she took also let me know, okay, girl, there's no turning back. But of course, I could have gone in another direction, but my love for dance is so deep. It's something that I told my husband actually just a couple days ago, oh, I don't think I'll ever retire. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, well, you know what I mean. Like, I don't think I will ever stop being a part of the arts. I don't think I will ever stop finding different avenues to submerge myself in the arts in some kind of way. May not be through movement, it may become advocacy.
And I believe the next question was, do you have other genres at Washington?
Yes, we do. And I see you are a young adult. And so we actually have various genres of dance that we offer in our adult program at the Washington Ballet. And we have 2 campuses. We have a Northwest campus, which is on Wisconsin Avenue, not very far from Sitar. And we have our Southeast campus. And both offer adult classes in ballet. And you can also take classes in contemporary. You can take classes in jazz, other genres of dance. And our adult program actually has their own performance, their own showcase. So you should come out and try and give the classes a shot. You can, go into WashingtonBallet.org and click on the tab that takes you to the Washington School of Ballet and click on the adult program. You're welcome.
Do you have an older adults program?
Yes, we do.
Older adult program. Yeah, I thought you were talking about herself.
I am talking about myself. I confront the grades. There's a lot of your name here.
Look, all ages are welcome and all ages participate at the Washington Ballet. And we actually have a class that is very near and dear to my heart because we started last year, and it's Dance for Parkinson's Disease. And I I'm fortunate enough to be trained by Lucy Bowen McCauley. She actually teaches the class at the Washington Ballet. And we are starting our Dance for Parkinson's Disease class at our Northwest campus on February 6th.
Wow.
And it is a joy. I going through the trainings, going through the classes with Lucy, and actually witnessing these folks walk into the studio who become my friends, watching them walk in, and maybe they're not in the best, physical shape at that moment, or, they've got their challenges coming into the class, but they press their way and they get there anyway. And by the time they leave, they are able to stand up out of that chair by themselves. They are walking differently. They have a completely different stature. And it is the most rewarding class that I have taught in a long time.
And it goes back to the healing properties.
Yes.
Physically, mentally, emotionally.
Absolutely.
Poetic, very poetic. Any other questions from audience?
I'm having an uber proud moment. I'm a board member at Sitar. My daughter goes to school here. I'm a board member at Washington Ballet. My son has been there for 9 years. You're a Georgetown alum. I'm at Georgetown. So this is an overwhelming moment. But and I'm just so excited that all these converge at one place. So it's really wonderful. The question I have, DeMoya, is you've worked with me for a while, and I'm uber proud of who you are. And my son, who is, a boy of color, who dances at DTH and at the Washington Ballet, he's already starting to think about post his dance career that he believes he'll have, which I believe that will happen too. When did you start thinking about the after? Because to me, I think it's pretty interesting that a 14-year-old who's been dancing for 9 years is like, well, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to create this, and then why is that coming up for him, and when did you have that? Because you have been very planful about your path.
Right. First of all, I think that is kudos to you, because as the parent, because there's something that you're doing that's allowing him to dream big and not just dream in one direction. And so I at 14, like that's huge. First of all, that he's actually thinking about life after dance. And I think some may say, oh, when we're kids, we all say, so my son wants to be a professional soccer player, he wants to be a pianist, he wants to be, several things. But for me, that happened much later. I much later, I was actually already out of college. Like, my mom said, oh, you need to major in dance, but you also need to double major, or you need to minor or something. And I said, no, I don't want to do anything else. I just want to dance. I was that kid that once I set my mind to it, that's all I wanted to do. I mean, I was going to dance forever. I was in my head, wheel me off the stage. And so for me, it happened at a very late stage in my life, in my career. And I say it happened organically because there were just things that started happening that made me start to think about it. And it wasn't that I was injured. I wasn't injured at all. Like, I had a career for consecutive years after that. But it was just something that started to dawn on me. Okay, well, one day this is going to go away, and what are we going to do? And it's like, I'm not going to worry about it too much. But while I was performing, I started to prepare. I was in grad school while on tour. I had professors that worked with me that were like, okay, you can start the course in person, and then we will check in once or twice a week. You will complete the course independently, send your work back, and things like that. And so I was just very, very persistent and adamant that dance was it.
That's the way Andre is.
Yes.
But he's also aware watching the dancers at the ballet. He's been there so long that they do, I hate to say this, but have a shelf life around how they perform and that they have to do something next.
Yes.
So.
And then, but that is also where it comes in, where I said, take that voice lesson.
Right.
Take that acting class. If you feel like you want to go and take a drawing class, a painting class, do those things, because you just never know how they're going to be able to be fused together. And so I think there are plenty of dancers. I've worked with countless dancers that they have other professional backgrounds. They're lawyers. Some of them are doctors, and they're, engineers and brilliant. And they decide, okay, I'm going to dance, and then I'm also going to do this. And it's okay to do both. It's okay to do both. One thing I can say, a dancer is disciplined, an artist is disciplined, but a dancer is disciplined unlike any other creature on the face of this earth, because we're athletes, right? And I think athletes, in order to perfect your craft, you have to have a certain level of discipline and dedication that goes above and beyond what you think your brain, what you conceive in your brain that is possible. That's how you push yourself to that edge, to that limit, and you push your body to do things that, those intricate steps that I was talking about earlier, that to the naked eye is like, that how do they do that? How do they get up and down in 2 seconds?
Right. Poetic. I'm telling you, poetic. Do we have time for one more question? Maybe we have one more. Yep.
Okay, I'll ask it.
Okay.
You're so lovely. I'm enjoying this so much.
Thank you
Very
so
inspiring. I just wanted, it was more in the community engagement. What's one of the biggest challenges you face in that like environment, like in your day to day or in general, trying to like get a hold or trying to engage the community
Yes.
itself?
Time. There's only so much time. There's only one of me. And so I think my biggest challenge in serving the community is having time and not having enough arms to make sure that dance is here, 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 and here. You know, our mission is to engage the community, of course, but we're very strategic about putting ourselves into various communities. And for me, it's very important that I'm making every effort to make an impact in all 8 wards of the city. And again, the time, is always an issue because you have to adhere to various rules and there are just various things that come into play. But that is my goal. And not only to be in Northwest and Ward 3 and not just in Ward 8 and Southeast, but just to make sure that we're everywhere. So that's my biggest challenge. You can come and volunteer and help me though.
I'd like to thank you.
Oh, thank you. Email me.
So as I mentioned to you earlier, my daughter does Washington School Ballet, and she now comes back from college and goes to see the performances of the Nutcracker. And the first thing she said to me when she came home from the performance this year was, "Mommy, you will not believe it. The girls can now wear their natural color tights." She was so excited. And I just think like those are the small things that happen that help people know they are seen.
Yes.
I see you in a pink tie on you does a natural flow with the intent of the tights is being started. So I'm really into it.
And the natural skin tone point shoes
Yes.
as well. I remember
Yes.
watching something with Missy Copeland talking about that change and how grateful I think dancers are to see that change.
Very grateful. And I can remember the days when I was in college and one of my professors was an alum of Dance Theater Harlem, and we had to dye our tights. And I was like, what? And mine, they were just a horrible mess. They were red, they were too much red, too dark, and then, just couldn't ever get it right. And then all of a sudden, one of the, dance apparel companies started to, produce tights in my flesh tone color. And so I love the fact that your daughter appreciates that because I appreciate that. And I think there are so many others that appreciate it. Again, representation matters. Dancers feeling as though they are seen matters. Feeling comfortable in their skin, it matters. Personal story, my first year as a Radio City Rockette, I was a Rockette for 7 years. And my first year as a Rockette, my director had me put on the flesh tone tights and the shoes. And then he said, okay, now go put on, the nude. And which one do you feel most comfortable in? And I feel most comfortable in the brown that looks like my skin. And he goes, done. That's what you'll wear. From that moment, it was like a well-oiled machine. Like the swatches, there were books of different color swatches, and they were being paired to my complexion. My tights were dyed. My shoes were dyed. The inserts with the in the costumes where all the beads are, delicately placed, ripped out, dyed to match my complexion. That was my first year as a Rockette. That director made me feel seen. He made me feel valued. I felt as though he wanted me there and he wanted me to shine as DeMoya. And so that moment allowed me to feel like I belong. I'm supposed to be here. This is for me. And I remember the curtain getting ready to go up, And it hit me. Now I've been through weeks of rehearsal, like boot camp, rehearsal, everything. And it hit me, you're a Radio City Rockette. And I will never forget it. It was almost like I forget the term you call, but like I was watered, but it was like like I came to life. Here it is. It was like a little button was pressed, and it was like, you're Radio City Rockette. And it was just like, okay, here it is. It's time. And so thank you for sharing that story, because I think it's something that a lot of people don't understand, or they've just never thought about it.
It seems so minute.
It seems so minute, but it is huge.
Because you're standing tall as a dancer, but now you're standing a little bit taller.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not just for the Black and brown girls, you know, there may be some other dancers on stage who they're like, well, I'm not necessarily pink, you know? And so I just think that the various apparel, you know, companies getting on board with that particular mission really made all the difference in the world. That's how you see the point shoes in all the different shades. And it also lets our young, aspiring artists, dancers know this is for you. So not only am I saying it, but you're seeing it in the dancer on the stage. You're seeing it in her attire, you know, and they do ask. The kids ask about it. They notice everything.
Well, I have chills. You can see them all down my arms.
You're sweet.
Thank you so much for sharing everything we've talked about tonight. Representation matters, passion matters, exposure matters, education matters, and stick to itiveness, I think, is so important. And sticking with your passion. Because so many times kids are passionate, and having good parents like yourself to foster that love and that passion is so important to tell our young people that you're seen. And I can help you, and their Sitar Center exists, and all these other assets exist to help you grow on your journey and to make sure those pathways are clear for our young people. Thank you again for everything you're doing. Thank you all for being an amazing audience.
Thank you.
Yes. And pull out your phones, the QR code. If you have the QR, you can flip your program over. Please check out the QR code, open up the cell phone, open up the camera. Tell us what you thought about tonight. Tell us about all the chills you had, all the chill moments. I'm telling you,
You're
it's
great.
amazing. No, you're fantastic and lovely, as one of our guests mentioned. Thank you again for sharing your story and being an inspiration. Thank you so much. And our next event will be taking place March this year. Stay tuned for more announcements. We have more announcements tonight? Not yet. Stay tuned. Follow Sitar Center on social media and watch Living Local DMV, 2 p.m. every day. Yes. Thank you all so much.